So if you notice, the only thing different here at the top is that we're going to be looking for the explicit form. Okay. Now, explicit is very similar to something we already know. Y equals mx plus b. Recursive relies on you knowing the previous answer in order to get the next answer. So if you remember, you need to know where you're starting. The first term, which here was 15. And then to get the next term, you always take whatever the previous term is, and we use this f of n minus 1 to mean the previous term, and then we had to add 5. So it says every additional pizza is $5, so if I know what the price of whatever was before, and I want another pizza, I just add $5 more. That's what this means. Take the previous price, add $5, that's what the new price is going to be, because every pizza is $5 more. So this was the recursive. Now, what we want to get is just a formula where we could plug in 6 into it and find out, well, how much does it cost for 6 pizzas? Very similar to what we did with all the graphing and everything. So I'm going to show you how to convert this recursive formula, or this is called recursive, into an explicit. Okay. Again, which just means it looks like this. We expect like something like looks like a y-intercept in the slope, and we could graph it. We could do all the normal stuff. So there are some key numbers here: 15, n minus 1, and 5. And I'm going to show you how to rearrange these to make an explicit formula. So for the explicit formula, f of n equals 15. Okay, so I just took the starting point, 15, okay, plus n minus 1, the next term, or the previous term, n minus 1. And then I'm going to multiply it by this difference of 5. I'm taking 3 key parts from the recursive form, put them together, and it makes an explicit form. Now, this does not look like y equals mx plus b. So what we're going to do is just simplify this. Distribute that 5. It is a little odd that this formula, we put the 5 on the right-hand side. Usually you put, a number in front of parentheses, not behind. But for this formula, it's standard to put it at the end. There's a reason for that we'll talk about maybe someday. But for now, just know it's the same thing as if it was in the front. It doesn't mean anything different. So we'll have, 15 plus 5n minus 5. So once that's simplified, f of n will equal 5n, just taking that 5n right here, and then 15 minus 5 plus 10. And that is the explicit rule. So when it says write an explicit rule, this is what we're looking for. It's something that looks like a slope intercept here.
So you want to write both recursive and explicit?
So you do not have to write this part. But you see, once you have this written, it's really easy to write the explicit. Or just have the last night's homework answers next to you as you're doing it, and you can just copy it over. One more thing about this. Some of these ask for a follow-up. Like this one also asks, well, what will the cost be for 6 pizzas? We have not answered that yet. Make sure you read these and make sure you're answering everything. It says to construct explicit rule. Okay, we did that. We'll come back and do this in a second after we practice doing the yellow part again and again. So I'm going to do number 2 and then number 4, and then we'll go back and worry about this other question.
What happened to
15 minus 5 is 10.
Oh.
Okay. Good. So here we go. Let's go down to number 2. I'm going to give you a second. See if you can write down the explicit formula on your own. Then I'll go over it and see if your answers match. As you can see, it's just moving things from one place to another. Very minor, basic simplifications. In the end, the hardest thing for you, once you really get these down, is remembering which one of these is called recursive, which one is called explicit. Like after the break, and when the final comes around, and I ask you to write a recursive formula, are you going to know, well, that's the one on the left, or are you going to like hesitate and try to remember, well, which one is that? Usually that's the hardest thing about this, is remembering which one's explicit, which one's recursive. Let's see here. So the first term is 25. The next term is whatever the previous term is, plus 5 more. Very similar to the first one, except it's 25 instead of 15. So your explicit should be f of n is 25 plus n minus 1 times 5. And then once that's simplified, you should have 5n plus 20. Okay. How many got that? We're in good shape? Okay, good. All right. Let's do one more, but just has a difference that's going down. So each of these was going up by $5. What happens if it's going down? Okay, so number 4. We can try doing it without writing the recursive. So f of n equals the starting 500 plus n minus 1. And what is it changing by? Yeah, it's going down by 20, right? So we're going to multiply it by negative 20. So when that's simplified, we'll have 500. Nope, we won't have 500. Negative 20n plus 520 should be what you get. So distribute that negative 20, the negative 1 and negative 20 make positive 20. That's how we got 520, 500 plus 20. And then negative 20 times n, negative 20. Okay. So those are, and you can see here, it only says to construct an explicit rule. So we've done that, and you're done. On all these, on most of the other ones, it asks you to do one more thing, like how much will Brian receive on his 10th day of work. Down here again, it says construct the explicit rule, so there's only one part. Some of them have one part, some have two. One little detail about number 6. They just give you the series of values. They don't tell you how much it's changing by. Like the other ones say it's going up by $5 or down by 20. This, they actually give you the numbers. You have to figure out, well, how much is this going up or down by? Yeah. It's kind of like finding a slope. What's the changing? What's the change? So let's go back and look at 1 and 2, but answer the second question for each. So remember, they each say construct a rule. That's what we did. But then they also have this follow-up question. Now, in the first one, it says, what's the cost for 6 pizzas? So you're trying to find cost. Usually when you're finding cost, that just means plug in the value they give you. So you're going to plug in 6 for n, 5 times 6 plus 10, which equals 40. So if 6 pieces cost $40, pretty reasonable. Okay, so there's the work for that second question. Same thing here, but this time they give you how much it costs, which means we're not plugging in 50. That's what this equals. This will equal 50. So one thing you're going to have to decide from problem to problem is, should you be plugging in that number, or should you be setting it equal to that number? So my hint to you is, as far as when do you know when to set it equal? Because here we've just plugged in 6. Here we set it equal to 6. Whenever you're dealing with, they give you money, like here they're telling you it's $50 a month, that's when you set it equal. You usually don't plug in money. If you remember, money was always on the y-axis. You always plug in what goes on the x-axis, and you get the answer of whatever's on the y-axis. So money is always on the y-axis, which means that's the outcome, the output. So this one, it's asking for the input. So we subtract 20 on both sides, do the normal routine. 5n equals 30, so n equals 6. And just to be careful, 6 what? Six years. Because it says it increases $5 a year. But then every month in that year it costs the same. Okay, so this is saying, yeah, on the 6th year the membership will be $50. It started at $25, but it went up $5 every year, so it should make sense. If it's going up $5 every month, I suggest you go to a different club, because that's going to be very expensive. So you can, if you thought of same months, just think about the answer in relation to this problem. Would that actually make real life sense for a membership to go up $5 every month? And you should probably set off a red flag, like, doesn't make sense. Okay, so that's the only thing you guys have to watch out for. Do I need to plug it in for n and get the answer of dollars, or are they giving me the dollars and I'm trying to find out, like, well, how many years does that take? Okay. Once you do it wrong, you'll get a weird answer, or if you get like a negative answer, you know it's wrong. So if you get a weird answer, don't just say, well, that's odd, I just got this really weird answer. Well, let's do the next one. Stop, maybe you plugged it in the wrong way, okay? All right, so I think that's all you need. Tomorrow we're going to do a review on both of these. And you're going to be asked how to do both. But you're going to be getting like a series of numbers. Instead of like a word problem, it'll just be an abstract. I'll give you a series of numbers. You'll find out the difference and tell me if it's arithmetic or not, and write a recursive or an explicit. And it'll be really fast. Okay, and I'll collect these two tomorrow as well. Okay. So go ahead and work the rest of the period and get it done.